The bonds of friendship, the price of love, the unrelenting thirst for power. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name's dustinkreis, and today we're going to discuss The Last Story, brought to us by Mistwalker and Xseed. And just beat this game last night and had to sort of, really let it permeate my brain. Because I will tell you guys this, I think that this is a fantastic game and really going to be a great swan song for the Nintendo Wii. However, there are some hiccups about it. But I think that when you really get down to it, I think the positives far outweigh the negatives with this game. So let's go ahead and get into it and talk about it a little bit. The Last Story concerns itself with a very simple story. A very simple story of love, a very simple story of war, and, a lot of people are giving it grief for that. And my question is, what's wrong with having a simple story? We have the Mass Effects out there. We have all these other games out there, Skyrims and things like that, that brings us this big, these big epic stories that are complex and things like that. And when we get just a simple story of a guy from the wrong side of the tracks falling in love with a princess, people start, oh, it's cliched. Oh, this is so cliched. All these tropes, blah, blah, blah. There's a reason why this type of storyline has lasted as long as it has. Because it works, and we love to root for an underdog. And I found the story of Zale and Callista to be one of the best, I shouldn't say one of the best, one of the better video game romances out there. I really haven't been this interested in seeing what happened between two people in a video game since Squall and Rinoa back in Final Fantasy VIII. And that, that's kind of, you can say that a lot about The Last Story. Is it really sort of fills you with a nostalgic feeling. For being such a new game, it really kind of threw me back to the old school days of playing JRPGs. I think that has something to do with the fact that Sakaguchi was behind this game. Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey, all the Mistwalker games really sort of have that old school feel to them. Even though they have a nice new coat of paint, they really do feel like old school games. And The Last Story, even with all the new things it brings to the table, underneath all those mechanics, it's still, at its heart, an old school experience. The villains are bad and the heroes are good. There are shades of gray that come out, especially in the political story, that happens between the humans and this other species that live in this area of the world called the Garak. And when the game starts off, of course, the heroes are the humans and they're really good, and the Garak are just evil monsters. And as the game progresses, you get to see a bit more shades of gray in both sides. You really get to see sort of the atrocities of the humans and sort of the plight of the Garak being forced to live on this desolate island. The band of mercenaries that Zale is a part of really forms a big part of the story. And, I'm hard-pressed to think of a group of individuals that I've had more fun going on an adventure with. The team in Xenoblade are, excellent. It was an excellent party, an excellent dynamic. But there's just something different about the group of The Last Story. And I think what it is that they're not... In RPGs, it's always like, we go to a different town, we meet a new person, they join the party. This is a group of people that have worked together for years. And you really get the sort of feel for that. The game just throws you right in with these guys. There's no opening cutscene or anything. You're just thrown right into them searching this cave. And... you're running through the caves and they're just bantering with each other. And I swear to you guys, you will stop and you will sit there and listen to these guys banter with each other because it is really good writing. I really dig that dynamic of the storyline. This group of people that they know each other's faults and they're able to joke about it with each other. And there's not the usual JRPG like mistrust among the group. They all know their place within the group. And that's it's kind of a new dynamic in JRPG stories, if I really think about it. I mean, there's always new people thrown into a party that shakes up the dynamic. But I think that this is the first time that we've had a group of people that have known each other before the game has started. So that was really kind of an interesting thing, and I really enjoyed that. The gameplay mechanics, it brings a lot of new stuff to the table. Like Xenoblade, all the battles are done in real time and without having to hit an attack button. It's an auto attack all the way. And I gotta tell you, I'm getting I'm really kind of enjoying that battle system, because now I'm playing Birth by Sleep. I'm going to go back and finish that game. And just sitting there hammering on the X button to do attacks is kind of like, it kind of feels old hat. I don't know. Because when when your characters are auto battling these monsters, that frees you up to be more strategic with your magic and things like that. You're able to actually think a little bit more than have to sit there and hammer on that X button or do combos or things like that. So I really enjoy that aspect of the game. Also, magic is really interesting in this game in that, say like Uric, he's kind of the fire-based guy. He casts his fire spell against an enemy. It hits them, it instantly does damage, and then it drops a circle on the playfield, okay? Now, that circle represents two things. One, your character can run through it and get fire attributed to his weapon and start attacking with fire, or you can use a skill of Zale's called Gale, which he will, basically slide towards the circle. He'll do a swing of his sword and diffuse that circle, granting everyone a brief amount of time to have fire weapons. And it destroys that circle, so you don't have that circle anymore. So you kind of have to weigh the cost and benefit of doing that. The big thing comes with like the heal spell. If you drop a heal circle, you can just kind of hang out inside that circle and let enemies come to you and wail on them. Or if your team is more spread out and taking damage, you have to weigh the cost benefit of keeping that circle there and having a safe haven versus diffusing it and healing your entire party. Because in this game, there's no items, there's no healing items, there's no resurrection items, anything like that. You have 5 lives, and they're little green squares above your character's hit points, kind of like in Metroid, the energy tanks. And once those 5 lives are gone, and it's Zale, it's game over. If Zale loses all 5 lives, game over, or anyone else if you're controlling them, because the story makes you kind of control different characters from time to time. So keeping your team kind of healed up is very important, because really there's only one way, well, there's 2 ways of restoring those lives. One is finishing the battle. After every battle they restore to 5. Or 2, you have to use a spell, spell of Mirania's called Revive. And what that does is completely restores all of your hit points. It adds 1 more block onto your life, and it resurrects anyone that's been KO'd with all 5 lives gone. So, really important spell, and there's going to be a problem with that I'm going to get to later on. I still want to talk about some of the good things. Another really awesome thing about this game is it forces you to use the environment. A lot of Zale's special skills involve you like clambering up walls and doing that kind of stuff. Really important, a thing to make sure you understand your environment, because there's cover, and you can jump behind cover and launch a few arrows and headshot something and completely take it out. I mean, it's got a really crazy battle dynamic where you can run in guns blazing and just attack, or you can hang out, be a little bit more strategic, and try to be a little stealthy with your attacks. Now, more often than not, I would just run in and attack, because basic monsters you don't have a hard time with. Bosses, you really need to take your time and strategize, because the bosses can kick your ass, and they can kick your ass really easily. Especially the end bosses. Don't go into the end game unless you're at level 60, because I was at level 61 with Zale, and everyone else was in the mid to upper 50s, and I was just getting stomped. So I went back to my save point and found a summon circle, which every now and then you'll find a red circle on the floor, and you can use Zale's power called Gathering, which I haven't talked about Gathering yet. I'll talk about that in a minute. To summon monsters there to fight, and I grinded my level up to level 62 with everybody, and then I had no problem with the end. Now Gathering is a skill that Zale gets from a certain storyline aspect of the game. And what it does is you hit the L button and this mark on his hand begins to glow. What that does is it kind of does a multitude of things. One, it draws all the enemy's attention to you, allowing your other teammates to cast their spells. Two, it also speeds up their casting times. So it's a very important skill to kind of get under your belt, because a lot of these spells that these guys are casting take a long time to use, and if they get hit, it recycles the amount of time they have to cast. So, you're going to be using that skill a lot. The downside of it is that everything is going to be hunting for you. So you're constantly kind of turning it on, turning it off, turning it on, turning it off, to sort of, to keep from dying, basically, because everything just sorts of gangs up on Zale, and that can go really bad. So, for the most part, on the gameplay aspects, I really love the new things that the last story brings to the table. However, there are some things that hold it back. In the battles, everything's kind of automatic, except when you press up on the directional pad. That opens up your command window, so you can actually order your teammates to do certain things. Now, I don't know if I'm just missing something here, but I would sit there and hammer on that up button for literally like 15 seconds before it finally bring up the command menu. You have no idea in this game how dangerous that is, because you're constantly getting attacked, and I am not joking. The importance of Mirania's revive spell. That thing is probably the most important spell in the game. And the only way she'll cast it is if you command her to do it, because it's sort of a special spell. And if you can't get that command window open when you need it open, and monsters are just wailing on you, game over. You have to go back either to a checkpoint or back to your save point. And, I mean, you can't skip cutscenes in this. You can fast forward through them. So, I mean, it can put you back quite a bit, And, I mean, there's a couple times, especially with the end bosses, that I almost rage quit because I could not get that command window up fast enough to cast that spell in order to keep myself alive. Just really, really frustrating. Also, sometimes you'll command them to cast a spell and they won't do it. They'll do something else. I've only come across that a couple of times, but I'll tell them to cast a spell, and they'll just stand there behind cover, not doing a thing. And I'm like, no, I really need you to drop a heal circle. You have no idea how important this is. And they'll just stand there. And, I like games that have this sort of automatic team thing. I'm really getting used to it. Like, when I first played Final Fantasy 13, didn't really like it. But now I'm getting really used to the AI taking over my partners. And for the most part, the AI does a great job. But when I issue a command to the AI, my command better supersede everything else that AI is going to do. That's just, it's a game, I should be able to have direct control over my people if I want to. The only other thing, gameplay-wise, well, actually a couple things. The game does suffer, we'll get that in graphics, side quests. This game it's a short game, 21 hours, and while I kind of wish the game was a little bit longer, maybe just like 30 hours. I think 30 hours would be a nice sweet spot for it, because I like to see more of the characters and things like that, and I feel like there needs to be more exploration and more things to do, basically. That being said, you can extend your gameplay by lost my train of thought. By doing side quests. Unfortunately, the game gives you no hints as to where to get the side quests. It gives you a very brief hint on what to do for the side quest, and then if you leave the game for any period of time, like you just say, I'm done for the night, going to go to bed, wake up the next morning, unless you wrote down what you need to do, the game is not going to tell you anything about the side quests. And on the one hand, that's a real annoyance because I have a ton of games to play, and I don't have time to really kind of dick around and look for these side quests when a lot of them don't really give you any great rewards in return. Now, some of them, and this kind of scares me because one of them was an actual chapter of the game, and I'm wondering if I missed other chapters of the game by not doing the side quests. That sucks because I potentially missed out on more storyline with these great characters. So, if they ever make a Last Story 2, I really hope that they put in the menu somewhere a thing for side quests. But other than that, I really, really enjoyed the battle system. It's just when it hiccuped, it hiccuped hard. The graphics. The graphics in this game are gorgeous. It's on a very much smaller scale than Xenoblade. Xenoblade's majesty came from its grand vistas. I feel like Last Story has a much more detailed world and much more detailed characters. The only problem I have with Last Story's graphics is the color palette. Unfortunately, it does not have a vibrant color palette at all. We're always talking about how these great Japanese games have these really vibrant colors. And I feel like Last Story, in sort of an attempt to cater to the West, maybe not cater to the West. It does make sense from a story perspective, but it really has real earthy tones to it. And while it's still really pretty, it's just not. It's not eye candy, I guess. I don't know how to put it because the graphics are great. Of course, they're not HD. Blah blah blah. Who cares? But I wish it had a richer palette. More colors. Because when colors do bleed into it, it really makes for something special. And like whenever you go on Stargazer Tower, that's what I want more of from the Last Story. Not so much running around in these very gray brown caves. That's kind of a letdown. But to be fair, looking at screenshots and stuff like that, I knew it was coming. And but still, you kind of wish for a richer palette to go along with these great looking graphics. Unfortunately, there is slowdown in this game. When you start getting swarmed and mobbed by enemies, there was a couple times where the game literally chugged, and you get through it, and then you get back to a nice frame rate. But it never caused me to die. It never really. I never had any bad effects from it. It's just like, oh crap, here we go. So I understand why people might be upset about frame rate issues, but if it doesn't break the game, I'm not going to worry about it because this game really does kind of push the Wii graphically in a lot of ways. There were some unfortunate things with lip syncing, but I can't fault Xseed because they didn't do it. And maybe Nintendo of Europe just kind of rushed the thing, but I guess we're getting so used to having the lips synced that when it doesn't happen, we're like, oh god, But I come from a generation where we didn't even have voice acting in games, and I would argue with you that it was better then. But so it didn't really bother me, but I know it could probably bother some people. But other than that, I found the graphics to be really great, really great looking game on the Wii. And I saw pictures on my iPad, screenshots with that Retina display, and I tell you that it would look fantastic in HD. If they do like a Wii U updates for these games, which wouldn't be out of the question. Maybe, but Wii U updates in HD, that would be something worth getting just to see these great games in HD. The music. Man, what can you say? It's Yui Matsu. I got the CD soundtrack a while back, and I was really looking forward to it, and people were kind of like, don't get hyped up. Really the thing about the game, people were telling me, don't get hyped up about it. It's good, but it's not great. And the soundtrack was kind of the same way, until I saw it paired with the visuals. And then I'm like, holy crap, this is like a fantastic video game soundtrack. Because when you listen to it just on the discs, you're kind of like, what's the deal with this song? But then when you see it in context with the game, you understand why some of the tracks are kind of minimal and sort of subdued. Two standout tracks for me is the very sad piano piece. It's track 11 on disc 1, I believe, of the soundtrack. And the final piece of music. Let's see. I don't have the soundtrack in front of me, and it doesn't look like it's on the back of here. The final vocal piece that Callista is always humming, and then it finally, when the end credits roll, and it's like Towards the Stars or something like that. I can't remember. Fantastic piece, and when it really hit, I was like, oh my god. Because I heard it on the soundtrack and it never really did anything for me. But much like the ending song to Xenoblade, when I saw it with the visuals, it made so much sense, and I was really quite moved by it. Really fantastic stuff. So, yeah guys, that's it. The last story. I think it's a fantastic addition to the Nintendo Wii's library, and if you're a JRPG fan, you owe it to yourself to get this. Yes, it has problems. But I think what it really brings to the JRPG genre, and where we go from here in this genre, with after Last Story and Xenoblade kind of changing the game a little bit, it's going to be really interesting because this one is much more action heavy. So for you guys out there who like kind of like RPG elements, but you don't like turn-based battles and things like this is a game for you. It's built for you, action-packed, great storyline, great simple storyline. The story between Zale and Callista, I really kind of want to play it again, just to watch it again. And the characters, all the characters are great. Even the ones like Lowell and Marania, who don't really get a big moment in the sun, are fantastic. And of course we have Seren. She was a lot of fun, and everyone's going to say, "Oh, you're gonna love Seren. You're gonna love Seren." I actually like Callista the best. I don't know. There's just something about her, and I think I said this when I was talking about the Lunar games one time. I said something like, why can't we find beautiful blue-haired girls to date in real life? Well, why can't we find beautiful white-haired girls to date in real life as well? So definitely check this out. It's a fantastic package from Xseed. Fantastic game. What a way to send the Wii off. We'll see if we get Pandora's Tower or not. But I'm telling you what, guys, the last story. If it is the last story for the Wii, then it went out on a very high note. Not as good as Xenoblade, but in its own right, it's just a fantastic experience. Definitely go out and get it. So that's all for me for right now. I'm going to go back upstairs and play some more Birth by Sleep and try to finish that up real quick so I get the Dream Drop distance. I know I said in one of my other videos I was going to play The Witcher 2. And I'm still kind of planning to play that, but I got my PC back up, and I can play The Witcher 1 on it, but I have to play it like one of the old Dungeons and Dragons, like Baldur's Gate. I have to play it from the isometric perspective like that. I can't play it over the shoulder like it's supposed to be played. So I don't know if I'm going to keep playing The Witcher that perspective or not, but I might jump ahead to The Witcher 2. So we'll see what game discussion video comes up next. I don't know. It's kind of an exciting time. So anyway, guys, make sure you go out and get this before it's off the shelves and the prices on this skyrocket because it's a fantastic set. I don't know if I think you had to pre-order it to get the premium soundtrack. So for you guys out there, when this thing starts going up on eBay, you're probably going to have to pay a little bit more for that premium soundtrack. So, but anyway, guys. That's it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.